When I first came into office, I cut taxes more than any other president. We have created 7 million new jobs, and it led to a growth like we've never seen before. We developed the greatest economy in history by far. When I left office, it changed. Inflation destroyed the lives of so many people. Interest rates went from 2% to 10%. Millions of illegal immigrants, traffickers, and drugs coming into our country. Our country has gone to hell. So I made a decision to run. We're going to make America great again, greater than ever before. I will fight for you with every breath, and I will never let you down. I'm gonna fight like a G, they all gon' see, and if I die, I'm gonna die free.
President Trump is literally putting his life on the line, and he's willing to risk it all because he loves this country.
He is strong, he is fearless, and he is what this country needs right now.
Our cities will be safe, our streets will be clean, and our border will be secure.
We can't allow our country to be destroyed by politicians who will put their own power ahead of the interests of the American people, our freedom, and our future.
The left told me to hate Trump. When you cut through the lies, you realize the truth. American families were better when Donald Trump was president. We were safer, wealthier, and stronger.
So if you love this country, if you want to stand up and fight for the future of our nation, you must re-elect Donald J. Trump.
Bernie, the problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies, it's in Congress too. Almost all the members of this panel are accepting, including yourself, are accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry.
And
protecting their interests.
Oh, I thought that would come. No. I ran for president like you. I got millions and millions of contributions. They did not come from the executives, not one nickel of PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. They came from workers.
In 2020, you were the single largest
because I had
receiver of pharmaceutical money
from workers all over this country. Workers,
you were the
not a nickel from corporate tax.
You were the single largest acceptor of pharmaceutical dollars.
No, from workers in
1.5 million.
Yeah, out of 200 million. All right, but
that's Bobby Kennedy bringing the heat to his Senate confirmation hearings, calling out the corrupt hypocrisy of the Democrats who are all hiding behind big pharma's pockets, most especially that ultra corrupt Bernie Sanders. And that's nothing. Waiting to see the mayhem that broke out on live TV at a Democrat forum in D.C. It was an absolute meltdown, and we're going to see how that madness is playing out in our political favor in yet another state flip. You are going to absolutely love it. Greetings, everyone. It is Live Stream Friday. It's just, I don't know, what do I say? Every Live Stream Friday is the most amazing Live Stream Friday of this new golden age. As always, I am your host, Dr. Steve, your patriot professor, here to help you celebrate with the dawn of the new conservative age that you made possible back on November 5th. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It's only day 12. I'm going to let that shit. Day 12, gang. It hasn't even been 2 full weeks yet. And this historic moment just keeps getting better and better. Wasn't it Lenin who said that there are decades in which nothing happens, and then there are weeks in which decades happen? Well, here we are. We are now in decade weeks where decades of progress for a new conservative age are happening right before our very eyes. As always, we've got a jam-packed show for you. I promise to make you feel smarter at the end of it all. We had an amazing week of Senate confirmation hearings. We'll get into that. We got the Democrats coming. They're just continuing to literally implode right before our very eyes. We flipped another state red. We'll talk about what that means for the shrinking list of battleground states for the Democrats. Our super chats, of course, are up now. It's the golden age, so we've been remonetized, thank God. So feel free to ask me your questions. You can send in your questions either through the Super Chats or by becoming a Courageous Conservative Club member by clicking on that link below. You have access to all kinds of exclusive live Q&As, private live Q&As that we do each week, and special content. Either way, it'll be my privilege to answer your questions throughout this live stream. Big week this week of Senate confirmation hearings. Here are some of the highlights from RFK, Tulsi, and Cash.
Statement and a mischaracterization of what I said. I encourage you to read the rest of the interview. This is why snippets of information are often misleading and detrimental to this committee's advice and consent process.
If you consent, I would love to have 5 hours of questions, and then I could read the whole transcript.
You've got 2 minutes.
Wow.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. My concern has to do with the tendency to repeat Russian and Syrian, and even in some cases, I think we'll get into in the closed session, Iranian information, and to discount what comes from our intelligence community.
Senator, every American deserves to know that people in our own government were providing support to our sworn enemy, Al-Qaeda. That should not be acceptable by anyone.
Thank you.
Before I close, I want to warn the American people who are watching at home. You may hear lies and smears in this hearing that'll challenge my loyalty to and my love for our country. Those who oppose my nomination imply that I am loyal to something or someone other than God, my own conscience, and the Constitution of the United States, accusing me of being Trump's puppet, Putin's puppet, Assad's puppet, a guru's puppet, Modi's puppet, not recognizing the absurdity of simultaneously being the puppet of 5 different puppet masters. The same tactic was used against President Trump and failed. The American people elected President Trump with a decisive victory and mandate for change. The fact is, what truly unsettles my political opponents is I refuse to be their puppet.
I want you to turn around. There are Capitol Police officers behind you. They're guarding us. Take a look at them right now. Turn around.
I'm looking at you. You're talking to me.
No, look at them. I want you to look at them if you can, if you have the courage to look them in the eye, Mr. Patel, and tell them you're proud of what you did. Tell them you're proud that you raised money off of people that assaulted their colleagues, that pepper sprayed them, that beat them with poles. Tell them you're proud of what you did, Mr. Patel. They're right there. They're guarding you today. Tell them how proud you are.
That's an abject lie, and you know it. I've never, ever accepted violence against law enforcement. I've worked with these men and women, as you know,
you
my entire
glorified
life.
it in song,
and I did
Mr.
not
Patel.
make a single dime out of it.
In song. Well, let me.
How about you ask them if I have their backs, and let's see about that answer.
Adam Schiff lie? How Cash Patel? I mean, how could you even insinuate such? Adam Schiff, would he lie? I mean, it would almost be like, I don't know. It's almost like he's suggesting that Adam Schiff got censored for lying by his own colleagues in Congress. But regardless, now Robert Barnes had a great observation on this. Trump putting forward RFK, Tulsi, Cash was absolutely politically brilliant. It had the simultaneous twofold effect of exposing the corruption inside D.C., all the while at the same time reminding disaffected Democrats why they left the party. You see, this is why the populist realignment around the Trump MAGA wing and the RFK Maha wing is, as Nicole Shanahan, I think, rightly put it, the single most powerful political force in our nation. What these hearings did is they effectively exposed the corporate and deep state corruption that pervades D.C. on the one hand, while at the same time reminding all disaffected Democrats why the Democrat Party is no longer fit for purpose on the other. Here's how Trump Chief Advisor Jason Miller put it.
I'm not worried about any of the fantastic nominees that President Trump has put forward because these are the ultimate disruptors. These are the folks who are going to depoliticize government. I think this is a big part of the reason, quite frankly, why President Trump received 77 million votes this past fall, 312 electorals, of course, winning the popular vote, because Americans are sick and tired of the politicization, whether it be a law enforcement community or the intel community or even within healthcare. That was the great thing that we saw with all three of these nominees yesterday. Kash Patel stood and delivered. And I love the exchange over pardons because, by the way, on that panel of Democrats, you had Shifty Schiff, who himself has received a pardon, along with the Biden family and thousands of others from Joe Biden. I thought Bobby Kennedy did a fantastic job pushing back on Bernie Sanders on all of the money that Bernie raised from pharmaceutical company employees. And Tulsi Gabbard, I think, is someone who's a transformational pick for this because she is bringing a certain truth to power. I think she's someone who reflects where America really is, saying we have to be tough with our national security, but the politicization of the last 4 years, the attacks and the leaks against President Trump and anyone who didn't agree with Biden, that has to go. And Gabbard is the perfect person for that.
Disruptors who are going to depoliticize the government, meaning that they're going to, in effect, drain the swamp. You see, again, this is so key. This is not 2017 anymore. Trump has friends now. That's the key difference. Back in 2017, Trump had no friends coming into D.C. The Republican National Committee didn't know what to do with him. Paul Ryan stood publicly opposed to him. Ted Cruz hated him. He refused to endorse him at the Republican National Convention. Glenn Beck spent every waking hour on his radio program railing against him. In fact, as I understand it, both Ryan and Mitchell were actually laughing at him. I mean, that was word on the street in D.C., is they were laughing at him, knowing that the city would eat Trump alive. But now, as you saw in that earlier commercial at the beginning, now Trump has amassed a political realignment that is the strongest political force in the nation. It's a political realignment of both disaffected left and disaffected right. This is the new majority that were left behind by a radical woke left and a war-mongering neocon right, such that he has perhaps the strongest political mandate of anyone since Reagan in his 1984 landslide. And Trump has assembled a dream team to come alongside him and do what he alone was only able to scratch the surface on back in his first term, being literally all alone. And it's all starting with these hearings. I mean, it's incredible. It's already happening. Just take what you heard earlier from RFK Jr. Listen to this from Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. This is really wonderful. This is a tweet she wrote. Quote, RFK Jr. just pulled back the curtain on what many of us have been warning about for years. The Democrats aren't just complicit in Big Pharma's agenda. They are its enforcers. They don't just advocate for the industry. They prop it up, protect it, and silence anyone who dares to challenge it. Truth, ethics, and even your health are expendable when profits and control are on the line. They want you sick, they want you dependent, and they want you uninformed. Now that you see it, you can never unsee it. That's absolutely brilliant, because I think that's exactly what the RFK hearings in particular did. They revealed to the entire nation that the Democrats are Big Pharma. The Democrats are Big Pharma. They're not advocates. They're not promoters or proponents. They are active participants in the very industry they're supposed to be regulating. The financial domain of the industry envelops the Democrats in that they are literal stakeholders in the big pharma industry. Again, this is absolutely essential for us to get, because we always have to take a bit of a step back to get the big picture, right? We're citizens, okay? So we're non-politicians, thank God, right? We tend, and we've been taught to think of politics as a battle of ideas. We tend to think of politics in ideological terms, left versus right, conservative versus liberal, right? And what these hearings helped expose was the fact that modern politics actually has virtually nothing to do with ideology. Nothing. Ideology is used as a tool. It's used as a weapon to manipulate sentiments that translate into political support and activism and votes. But the actual governance side of politics is nothing more than the implementation of a business model. And the business model was simple. You leave Washington richer than when you entered. Not a single member of Congress leaves Washington poorer than when they entered. It's a business model. And the key to the wealth accumulation is the revolving door that exists between regulatory agencies and the industries they're supposed to be regulating, right? You guys all remember Barney Frank, right? Good old Barney Frank, you know, that repulsively pugnacious congressman that from Massachusetts that Rush Limbaugh always used to rail on. It was just, oh, I miss Rush. But, well, it turns out that pugnacity was nothing compared to his corruption. Barney Frank was one of the co-sponsors of the Dodd-Frank financial reform law of 2010. That law regulated banks across the nation. It also turns out it was a law that was basically written by bank lobbyists. So guess where Barney Frank ended up after he retired from Congress? He got a cushy job sitting on the board of a bank. And not just any bank, Signature Bank. Yes, Signature Bank that was so pathetically corrupt, it actually went defunct. It went bankrupt. And this is just one example of this revolving door apparatus that connects bureaucrat and billionaire, agency and industry. That is our new politics. Our politics is a politics of massive corporate power and interest that buys the fidelities of our politicians in both parties, by the way, but most shamelessly at this point, clearly the Democrats. One of the key opponents against RFK that's been bankrolled by Big Pharma is Mike Pence. He's claiming it's RFK's pro-choice stance that he's opposed to. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. It's just using ideology as a tool to garner support. What's really driving Pence is the big checks he's getting written in his name by Big Pharma. His organization is basically singularly bankrolled by Big Pharma, who play both sides, by the way. They fund both Republicans and Democrats. And then, of course, you had on top of that Tulsi and Cash revealing just how corrupt the deep state is in the three-letter agencies, both here and abroad. CIA abroad, FBI here at home. Well, CIA is doing plenty here at home as well. Tulsi detailed how an Obama-era policy of regime change instigated through the CIA in Syria ended up doing the unthinkable. It directly aided and abetted Al-Qaeda, the very organization responsible for 9/11. In the Syrian civil war, the United States sided with the rebels fighting against the Assad regime. And whether we like it or not, that meant funding Al-Qaeda, who became part of that resistance. And the result? Well, do you know who the new leader of Syria is? It's a fellow by the name of Abu Muhammad al-Jalani. And Abu Muhammad al-Jalani has ties to both ISIS and Al-Qaeda. I mean, just to kind of just screw it in, just to make it hurt that little bit more. Yeah, he's got ties to both ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And we helped make that happen. So Tulsi exposed that. And then, of course, Cash was just Cash. I mean, he just made it absolutely clear that the days of the Democrat weaponization of the FBI are about to boomerang on them like they never imagined in their worst nightmares. So I think Barnes' observation was brilliant. I think the Senate confirmation hearings both exposed the corruption in D.C. While at the same time reminded disaffected Democrats why they walked away from this completely dysfunctional political party. Speaking of dysfunctional, wait until you see the mayhem that broke out at the latest Democrat event in D.C. They're melting down like you wouldn't believe, gang. This is going to absolutely make your weekend. But first, each one of us, all of us, have an opportunity to finally stop big tech and government overreach. Patriots, as we speak, are reclaiming their privacy. And you have no better way of protecting yourself than with SLNT. That is short for Silent. Silent's Faraday products block all incoming and outgoing signals so no one can get their hands on your information. From key FOBs to phones and laptops, simply place your device inside, close the sleeve, and boom, that's it. You're off the grid and safeguarded from unauthorized access. So Silent is amazing. Go silent today by clicking on that link below or going to slnt.com/Turley to save 15% plus free shipping on all qualifying orders. Stay ahead of what's coming and secure your privacy today. Again, that's slnt.com/Turley for 15% off and free shipping on all qualified orders. slnt.com/Turley.
This is the final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will liberate America from these villains once and for all.
That has got to be one of my favorite ads of all time from 2024. And I can't think of a starker contrast than from what we're seeing coming from the ultra defeated Democrat Party. Now, if you don't know, Democrats gathered the other day at Georgetown University for the DNC chair forum. So this is the forum to determine the next chair for the DNC. And true to form, it was an absolute train wreck in every way imaginable. Of course, you had the usual climate change protester interruption.
Protest the Republicans! Protest the people who are actually hurting you! I'm fossil fuel stamps!
I think it's important to say here, we respect people's opinions. It is understandable that there is a lot of passion in this moment.
We respect other people's opinions. I think that's important for everyone to know. We respect other people. I mean, just like, I don't even know what to say, but you know, that train wreck was really nothing compared to the ideological train wreck of wokeness that continues to infect the whole of the Democrat leadership. Check this out.
Round. So I'm going to I have a show of hands. How many of you believe that racism and misogyny played a role in Vice President Harris's defeat? Okay. So that's good. You all passed.
Racism has not gone away since 20 people of African descent came upon these shores at Jamestown, Virginia in 1619. And it's going to require us to think and behave in a new way. It is systemic. It is structural. when it comes to addressing diversity, equity, inclusion, access, and belonging that is for all people of the United States, that must come across the voting line as well. This is everyone's America. Our story has a new form of glory that must come to our shores as well.
Oh, our story has a new form of glory. I hope she wins. I hope she wins. No. Can you imagine how much fun the next 2 years would be if that was the new DNC chair? Now, I really want you to think about this a bit. I'm serious. What you just saw there. Think about it. Put it in the chat. According to these people, according to every single person in that room, why did they lose the election? Put it in the chat. Why did they lose the election? Why did the Democrats lose? Who is to blame? You. You. You're to blame. Let that hit you. They lost the as far every person you saw their hands go up, every person in that room. The reason why they lost the election, let this hit you. The reason why they lost, as far as they're concerned, is because of the voters. At one level, that would be logical. That's right. People didn't vote for you. You lost because of the vote. No. No. This is a Democratic Party. We're not talking logic here. This is a party that doesn't know what a woman is. We're not talking logic here. The reason they lost is because of the voters. And that means that there is something debilitating in you. There is something within the average voter that is hindering. There is a moral impediment that is preventing you from realizing the moral righteousness of them. That's what you just saw in that room there. That is exactly what you just saw. Do you remember this from that borderline illiterate Sonny Hostin on The View?
Finally, we talk a lot about these different demographics and these assumptions of where they're going to go. Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the it's on the border. The border crisis is on their doorstep. And they were begging people to care about it for years. We need to take some lessons.
That's what that was.
The lessons are not
Knock, knock. Who's there? Oh my gosh, it's Whoopi.
Misogyny and sexism. Misogyny. And then, of course, Whoopi turns around and makes it all about her. But that's it. That's it. And when all is said and done, this is a narcissism that I think, frankly, I think it borders on, I think there's I think there's something mentally wrong with these people. There's clearly something more. Think about it. A population that sits at a southern border that's completely open and that's been ravaged by crime and lawlessness as a result of that open border votes for the guy who promises to close the border. You would not think that's hard. But in the world of Sonny Hostin, they voted for them because they're sexist and misogynist. I'm going to be blunt. I'm going to be I am, because I think this is important for us to get, especially for what few doomers and black pillars still exist out there. Moral cowards, in my view, Denethors. This is almost like it's not even a fair fight. Trump is a super heavyweight Tyson-like brawler, promising to defend and champion and stand up for the people against a corrupt political class, versus these little fawns, these Bambis who screech and cry and blame voters for every time their feelings get hurt. I mean, seriously, think about the calculus here. You got Trump promising he'll fight for every one of us, every waking moment of his life, versus the Democrats who believe that you should be defeated. They're actually running against you. Your bigotry, your racism, your misogyny. You are the ones who should be defeated. Now, how on earth do they expect to win with a political strategy that blames the voters for all the ills of our society? How on earth do they expect to win in an increasingly populist age where the people want to take power back from a corrupt political class, and then your party instead is dedicated to defending that corrupt political class as the only thing standing up against your bigotry and misogyny? I'm sorry, we couldn't have scripted a more easily defeatable opponent. You think November 5th was a landslide? If this is what they're doubling down on, forget it. We'll be in power for a generation. There's no way they're winning with that. Case in point, did you see this? Which, there. If you want proof that blaming the voter is a political disaster, take a look at what's happening in the state of Nevada. Registered Republicans now officially outnumber Democrats for the first time in 2 decades, since 2007. This is huge. Remember, Trump was the first Republican to win Nevada since Bush in 2004. The Obama era represented Democrat surge, a registration surge that swept the state and kept it off the table for Republicans in both federal and state elections for years. But then again, a few years back, we began to notice Nevada swinging back to the right. Back in 2020, Democrat voter registration led by nearly 5%, 4.65% in 2020. But just before the last election, in those 4 years, that lead collapsed to just over 1%. The Democrats led going into November by just around 30,000 votes or so, or 30,000 registrations. And in between, we saw movement electorally towards the Republicans, with the Republican Joe Lombardo winning the governorship in 2022. So the state's been gradually turning more and more red. Again, very similar to the pattern we were seeing in Ohio, very similar to the pattern we were seeing in Florida. And then basically the dam breaks. Just there's a critical mass, and all of a sudden the registrations overwhelm the Democrats. And that's exactly what's happened. The Republicans have officially out-registered the Democrats in Nevada for the first time in 2 decades. Now, independents still have a slight registration advantage over both parties, but independents are more right-leaning in Nevada. So it does look like we have now a new red state in our growing list. It'll be awesome if we can check off Nevada and remove it from the swing state list, like we are. Looks like we're about to be able to do with Pennsylvania. Many analysts are saying Pennsylvania is the new Ohio. Ohio was a swing state forever. It was going back and forth. It goes to Bush, then it goes to Obama, and all that. Red, blue for decades. And then all of a sudden, 2016, Trump, again, same thing, critical mass. He harnessed the power of the working class vote there, turned them all into Republicans, and boom, it's a solid red state that shows no signs of ever going blue again. Same with Iowa. Iowa voted for Dukakis, for heaven's sakes. Florida would be another example. But speaking of Iowa, by the way, maybe that's what Ann Seltzer was hoping for. Another Dukakis moment in her bogus poll showing Kamala up 3 in a state that Trump ended up winning by double digits. Talk about a fraud. The same dynamics appear to be happening in Pennsylvania. It's a highly working class state. James Carville describes as Philadelphia on one side, Pittsburgh on the other, with Alabama in between. And those Alabama forces are being politically organized like never before, thanks to the efforts of Pennsylvania Chase's Cliff Maloney, our good friend, and Early Vote Action Scott Pressler. It now looks like Pennsylvania is about to become the new Ohio. It promises to vote red, deeper and deeper red for the foreseeable future, at least when it comes to the White House. So if we can remove Nevada and Pennsylvania from the swing state map, if they become solid red, if New Jersey continues to go closer and closer to the Republicans, they were within 5 back in November. If we start seeing New Hampshire come our way, Maine come our way, Democrats have been permanently boxed out of executive power for the foreseeable future. There's just no way around that. And that said, why should we be surprised? Based on what you just saw, why should we be surprised? Who the hell are they talking? Who the hell is that room talking to? What do the Democrats expect to be the result if they decided to go to war against the American voter? I mean, again, all they have to do is just then in the next election, just play that commercial over and over again. How many of you blame sexism, misogyny, and racism for your defeat? All of us. You all suck. This is so key to understanding why the Democrats are unraveling right now politically. At the same time that Trump has embraced the people, the Democrats have gone to war against the people. Trump has embraced populism, the people versus the corrupt political class. All the while, the Democrats have embraced the corrupt political class as the only thing that stands in the way of the people's racism, sexism, misogyny. It is, as far as I can see, the single most disastrous political strategy imaginable. It is, in a term, political suicide. And there's no scenario that I can think of, at least. There's no scenario where this ends well for the Democrats. But things get even better. Because if we go across the pond, we're going to see some of the same dynamics happening in Europe as are happening here. Wait until you see what's going with the rise of the populist right throughout the world. You're going to absolutely love this. But first, gang, by the way, if you are just joining us, if you want to ask me your questions, I'll answer them in just a few here. We do have our super chats up, but you could also click on, there you go. You guys got it. We got our super chats up, but you could also click on the link below and join our Courageous Conservatives Club, where just for a monthly fee, you get exclusive Q&As, private Q&As on our own private virtual platform, censorship free, I might add, or you could just pop into super chat and I will answer it in due course. But would love to have you either way. Ask your questions. It'd be an honor to answer them right here. Also, if you hear me talk about it every week, you know what you got to do, and I want you to start to do it, gang. If you have not yet secured the deed to your home, do it. Do it. Click on that link below right now and protect yourself and your loved ones. The deed to your home is the only document proves that you own it, but the problem is that the deeds to all our homes are now online, and criminals are free to find that deed, forge your signature, refile as the new owner of your home, take tons of loans out using your home's equity, and stick you with all the debt. But that is where our good friends over at Home Title Lock come in. I don't even know what could possibly give you more peace of mind than to know that the deed to your home is 24/7 monitored, completely, totally protected. Click on that link below right now. Use promo code Turley Talks. Then all you got to do is just enter your address for your no obligation home title scan to see if you've already been a victim of deed theft. It's $100 value, absolutely totally free with my promo code Turley Talks. So don't wait for the worst to happen and only regret you didn't do something about it when you could have. Do what I've done. Do what countless patriots have done. Click on that link below right now and secure your home today. All right, traveling across the pond, we've got some major developments in the rise of the populist right in Europe. Take a look at this poll coming from the UK. For the first time ever, Reform UK, that's their populist patriot party in Britain. It was originally the UKIP party, then the Brexit party. Now the Reform Party led by the great Nigel Farage. It is now the number one most popular party in the nation. A bombshell new poll by Find Out Now has recorded Reform UK's largest lead yet, sitting a comfortable 4 points ahead of Labour and 6 points ahead of the Tories. In other words, were they to have an election tomorrow, as it were, Reform would be the largest party in Parliament. Again, electoral analysis is revealing that the Reform Party is taking an equal amount of voters away from both the Tories and Labour, from both the center right and the center left. So this marks a major political realignment that's happening in Britain today. In fact, it's been called by political scholar Matt Goodwin Britain's de-alignment. It's not so much a realignment as, first and foremost, a de-alignment. And de-alignment involves a breakdown of the bonds that used to exist between traditional political parties and their constituents. And the key here is that this breakdown in the bonds that voters have had with traditional parties is making it easier for new political challengers to rise up and take the nation in a new direction. So, for example, in Britain, back in the 1960s, around 50% of the population felt strongly aligned to one of the two traditional parties, the Tories or Labour. So half the population was loyal to one of the two traditional parties. By 2015, that loyalty collapsed to just about 10%. 10%. And we saw that with Brexit, where support for the Brexit vote in 2016 cut directly across the traditional party electorates. And what this de-alignment is doing is it's opening up space for third parties to come in like never before. It's exactly like what we saw with Trump back in 2016, right? Nearly 200 counties in Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, Pennsylvania that had voted Democrat in every presidential election since the 1980s, including counties that had voted for Obama twice, suddenly voted for Trump. Some by as much as a 15% margin in comparison to the previous presidential election, 2012. Trump got 180,000 more votes in Ohio than Romney did, 165,000 more votes in Michigan than Romney did, and an astounding 290,000 more votes in Pennsylvania than Romney did. So it's a comparable dynamic that's happening overseas in Britain. The British people have been completely disaffected by both major parties, both the Tories and Labour, and they're looking for an alternative. And they're finding that alternative increasingly in the rising populist dynamics that are propelling reform into the leadership position. And speaking of alternative, it's not just Britain. In Germany, the unthinkable just happened. The CDU, the Christian Democrat Union, that's Angela Merkel's former party, they're Germany's Tories, so they're Germany's center-right globalist party, generally part of their uniparty, as it were. But they just teamed up with the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland, which is their patriot party, to pass an anti-migration resolution in the lower chamber in the Bundestag, the German parliament, bypassing the leftist coalition that just collapsed, which is forcing new elections in just a few weeks. Now, why is that so important? Why is this sort of this coalition of sorts that just happened with the CDU and the AfD so important? Well, because the CDU just broke a years-long strategic united sanction against the AfD, where all parties in Germany, both left and right, have all sworn to never, ever work with the AfD. So this is the European form of the uniparty. And all the parties agree to work together, both left and right, to keep the so-called dangerous far right out of power. And thus far, no one was even remotely willing to work with the AfD. Until someone named Elon stepped up to the plate and gave his unequivocal endorsement of the party ahead of the national elections coming up. He tweeted out, of course, that only the AfD could save Germany. And now The AfD is the number 2 most popular party in the whole nation, the number 1 most popular party in Eastern Germany. And so it was only a matter of time, just given the way politics work. It's only a matter of time before the center-right party realized, if we lock arms with these guys, we could actually be in political power for a generation. And so that's exactly what it looks like they're doing. Now, this is something we've seen in Europe before, where members of the so-called mainstream parties that are just frankly, globalist parties, broke ranks and hooked up with the so-called far right, which is just simply the People's Party, the Patriot Party. We saw it most recently in neighboring Austria. We've seen it all through Scandinavia. We've seen it in Italy before the so-called far right came to power there. It's a process that's actually technically known as de-diabolization. How's that for a fancy schmancy term? It's also known as de-demonization. And it's a strategy that nationalist populist politicians have been implementing all over Europe. What de-diabolization or de-demonization involves is basically an intentional normalization process taken by nationalist populist parties in Europe that seeks to bring the political party out of the political periphery, the political fringe, as it were, and to bring it into the mainstream, but really without sacrificing its core values. So one of the reasons why the legacy media and the globalist politicians use the term far right, radical right, extreme right, is to try to keep these nationalist populist parties, basically the MAGA parties or the mega parties, make Europe great again parties, to deliberately stigmatize these parties as extreme and radical and racist, and to keep them in the periphery, keep them out of the life of national politics. They do everything they possibly can to narratively disestablish them and or disenfranchise them. And so what nationalist populist leaders have been brilliant in doing is employing a number of tactics and strategies to garner the trust and confidence of the people. That's so key. They've been employing all of these strategies to garner the confidence and the trust of the people. And the results have frankly been breathtaking. In other words, again, we've been talking about this. The new politics today is not left versus right. It's not horizontal division. It's vertical division. It's the people versus this corrupt oligarchy, this corrupt permanent political class. And it is the populist parties, the nationalist parties, the people's parties, as it were, that have been most successful in redefining politics that way. And the results have been astonishing. I can still remember seeing Giorgia Meloni speak in Verona back in 2019. It was at the World Congress of Families conference there where I spoke. It was awesome. And this is back where her party, the Brothers of Italy, they were probably getting about 5% support in the polls. Back then, it was primarily Matteo Salvini and Lega. They were the popular party. Brothers of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, 5% at best. But everyone was telling me, you got to check out this Giorgia Meloni. She is unbelievable. She's going to rock the roof off this place. And when she got up and she spoke, it was breathtaking. I was astonishing. But in just 3 or 4 years, through this process of de-diabolization, Giorgia Meloni and the Brothers of Italy had surged to the number 1 party in Italy, uncontested. They are number 1 by far. And she is now the prime minister, and not just the prime minister, she's the single most popular prime minister in all of Europe. So I've seen de-diabolization work actually in action. And that's exactly, I think, what's happening here with the AfD in Germany. And Elon Musk has been an inordinate influence in that de-diabolizing process. The AfD, once consigned to the political periphery, extreme far right, is now poised to assume a major leadership role in Germany's politics. If the AfD and the more populist-minded CDU align, they will be in power for a generation. And I think, especially given with what just happened in Austria a few weeks back with the victory of their Patriot Party, the Austrian Freedom Party, and their new government there. I think such an alliance is ultimately inevitable. As I understand, that's basically the pattern in German, Austrian politics. Austria moves to the right, and that move to the right gives the permission for voters in Germany to move to the right as one. It usually happens through Bavaria. So Austria moves to the right, then Bavaria goes to the right, and then in order to stave off the growing groundswell of so-called far-right populist politics, the mainstream right party, the CDU, starts sounding more and more like the AfD, and so the politics inevitably moves to the right. Mainstream politics moves to the right as well. That's the pattern. So amazing stuff happening all over the world. A new conservative age is indeed rising, a civilizationalist world, a nationalist world, a populist world, a traditionalist world. And you, as you all saw at that Democrat convention there in DC, or the latest Democrat conference, you are responsible for it. You are on the forefront of it. But unlike them, what I would say is God bless you for it. All right, and so over to you. It's your turn. You're the ones making all this happen. Let's hear what you have to say. Enough of my blah, blah, blah. As Josh and Micah assemble your questions, we often talk about how we can maintain and build up the conservative way of life here on this channel. And one crucial aspect of that is your routine, staying strong physically, mentally. It's not just about living longer. It's about living better, which starts with a good night's sleep. And I've been using Beam Dream now every night for a while. And I got to tell you, it's completely changed the way I sleep. You know, every biohack article I read says health starts with a good night's sleep. And I'm a horrible sleeper. I can't turn off my brain. So this has been a godsend. Seriously, since taking Dream, I crash every night. I fall asleep so fast and I sleep so deeply and soundly all throughout the night. Beam Dream, it's made with the highest quality sleep promoting ingredients to help you unwind and get the deep sleep we all need and deserve. In fact, it's become a nightly ritual of mine. I look forward to it every day. And I love, if I may make the recommendation, I love their brownie batter flavor. You know, you put a little half and half in there and it's like, oh man, it's just the best little nightcap for the night. There it is. There it is on the far right, of course. Plus, I never wake up feeling groggy the next morning. I always wake up feeling rested and ready to give it my all, making a huge difference in how I show up every single day. Right now, you could save up to 35% off with my exclusive Beam discount. Just click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen. Where'd that QR code? Isn't there a QR code? I like my QR. Whatever it is. Click on that link below. Use code TURLEY at checkout. TURLEY, and you're going to save that wonderful 35% off. So stop letting sleepless nights hold you back. Transform your sleep. There's that QR code. I love that QR code. Transform your sleep and your day with Dream because you deserve it. Click on that link or scan that QR code right now. You know, I love my QR codes. All right. I realized that the boomer in me, I'm not a boomer, but there's a boomer in me. I realized it when I used a QR code for the very first time, and it worked. All right. What do we got? Paul Luiso. Good morning, Dr. Steve. I hope you're feeling better. I am. Thank you. So we normally have our live private Q&As on Monday nights, and I got some kind of food poisoning the night before on Sunday. I felt a little better, and then it just really, I felt a little better on Monday, then morning, and then it really started to ravage. I don't know, I lost energy, whatever. So I couldn't do the Q&A. And then, believe it or not, it hit me even again on Tuesday night. So, but I feel much better now. My appetite's not all there, but my energy's back. And anyway, so thank you for that, Paul. Apparently, any new media outlet, including YouTubers such as yourself, can now apply for press credentials and attend White House conferences and briefings. Would you ever consider this as an option for you? It sounds like it'd be fun, especially with Carolyn Leavitt being the new press secretary. To apply, go to whitehouse.gov/newsmedia. Yes, I believe we have already applied. I actually saw a question asked by Daily Wire there. Very exciting. So yes, of course, Yes, our producer Micah said yes, we've already applied. So yeah, very excited. I would love to do it. I would have even loved to have done it with Karine Jean-Pierre. Can you imagine her calling on me on some of the questions? There's that African correspondent. He's so wonderful. Forgive me, I don't forgotten his name. I follow him on his Twitter handle. But she would never call on him. And one day he just goes, "You never call on me. You always bypass. You never call on me. I have one question." And then he would ask her the hardest questions in the world. Anyway, so yes, I think it's a new day in media for sure. Steve, the Articles of Confederation adopted in 1777 and enforced in 89, replaced by the U.S. Constitution. The EU is likely to continue to fail and perhaps eventually dissolve. Is there any chance that a stronger EU constitution would create a more perfect union? Or is the nature of European diverse countries, historic animosity, etc., doom any success in a functional, more perfect union? That's a good question. So right now, what you have are more these blocks, like the Visegrad Four. So your Slovakia, the Czech Republic, Hungary, and Poland. Austria tends to just dip its foot into the Visegrad Four, maybe Visegrad 4.2, something like that. But Austria is tied to Germany. There's no way around that. But you'll see those blocks around. You have Scandinavian blocks and so forth. Ortho blocks in Eastern Europe. That's probably what you'll see first, and then what you'll most likely see is a union of the blocks. But I don't think those blocks ever stop. I think they like those blocks because they protect their own unique sub-civ of the wider European civilization. So it may be something akin to that. I've read a little bit about the possibility of a new kind of a new EU rooted more in European civilizationalism, the civilization we're getting like a Geert Wilders or a Giorgia Meloni and so forth. But we'll have to see. I don't know at this point. It's right now Europe is still just way too how do I put this diplomatically? Conquered. Europe is just too conquered, man. It's just Europe is occupied territory since 1945. There's just no way around that. Yeah, they got their armies, but their armies are under the auspices of NATO. I mean, and NATO's under the auspices of DC. So, I mean, they're basically conquered. And in a globalist structure, Europe can't really do anything. And so, do anything autonomous in terms of what it wants to do in terms of pursuing its own interests in a more multipolar sense. That multipolarity is coming, and how Europe will work that out remains to be seen. It's just a little too conquered right now to kind of get a good sense of what would happen and how it would shake out. ROT Corp. I got something spin on there. I don't know, whatever. ROT Corp, Dr. Turley. Multi-post rant. Please read in order. All right. Number one, as an Army aviator, I've heard rumblings. The helicopter route over the Potomac was 200 feet max altitude, and the helicopter was above 200 feet. We did just about the exact same thing in Korea, flying under the Osan Air Base approach path all the time. However, I'm not a Black Hawk pilot, nor have I ever flown in DC, so that's all speculation. Pending investigation. Please take that with a grain of salt. Yeah. So, okay. Yep. There you go. ROT Corp. But as a sadist, are we seriously about to find out that there were just as much Los Angeles Fire Department DEI levels of effery going on in DC? Are the top 3 FAA officials for the DC area a bunch of lesbians too? I want to see that video. Can they give me a PAR in a runway 33? To which my response is, you got yourself in the wrong place if you give you a PAR in a runway 33. So if I'm understanding ROT Corp, runway 33 was very rarely used for commercial airlines. So if a helicopter is being told keep a visual distance on the airplane that's landing, they would have assumed, if I recall, ROT Corp, like runway 1. They would not have assumed of looking in the trajectory towards runway 33. So that would have been an exceptional instruction that was not designated as such. Also, I just noticed a pattern ATC blackout early in Biden's administration. Pete Buttigieg on vacation. LA goes up in flames. Karen Bass on vacation. East Palestine train derails. Highway goes up in flames. Remind me, who wasn't on vacation? Yeah, good. Is that it? Was that the three? The more we're looking into what happened at Reagan National, the more questions are coming out. There's no question about that. So, I gave that, you probably saw it, RT Corp. So I did my vid yesterday on it, in our live stream last night on what appeared to be the best explanation, but very similar to what you're talking about there with runway 33 versus runway 1, and two planes involved and a helicopter given ambiguous instructions, given the two planes and so forth. But with the more we're learning about the pilot of the chopper and the helicopter, and we're gonna have to see. God forbid, God forbid anything less than just incompetence is at play. I'll just say that. I don't know. I just don't have the information to draw any sharp, strong conclusion there. Other than it at this point, from what we know, it seems it was a air traffic controller complete mess up there. Like you just said, there was ambiguity where there had to be absolute specificity, and there was no specificity in the instructions, or there was the lack of specificity, I should say. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that plays out and how DEI play. Obviously, President Trump knows something, or else I don't think he would have brought it up. And also, I think he's very mad about it because he feels like it should never have happened in the first place, obviously. Bert, hello again, Dr. Steve. Yes, last Friday was a setup. Just wanted to see how you would answer it. Here's one. You play classical guitar. Did you ever play one of my favorite classics, Lazy by Deep Purple? I tried it on the mandolin. No way. I've played I've done Smoke on the Water, obviously, back in the day. I don't think I ever did Lazy. I don't think I ever did. I just never played a lot of Richie Blackmore. Not that I shouldn't have. He's brilliant. It was just I tended to gravitate more to one of his disciples, as it were, which is Yngwie Malmsteen, the Swedish guitarist. He loved Yngwie Malmsteen. Just like created his whole aura around. If you look at the way Richie Blackmore would stand with the guitar and the way Yngwie would, and the way their hair is, their black outfits, they were literally Yngwie is just a doppelganger of Richie Blackmore. So I ended up playing a lot of Yngwie, but I didn't end up playing a lot of Richie Blackmore. So there you go. Vaughn, Dr. Steve, do you feel the resurgence of privateers on the oceans could help us fight the cartels incoming drug supplies? That's a good question. But I've not given that any thought, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. I don't have the information to answer that question, but let us know what you think. James, thanks for the super chat. Scammer Sanders didn't take one nickel, he took millions. Did you do you what is it? Do you reject the onesie? Do you reject the onesie? Love him getting all irritated when he was called out. Typical Democrat fraud. Absolutely. Again, what do you want to call it? It's a laundering option. I didn't take one dime from the corporate executive. No, you took the money from the workers who work for the big pharma. Of course, it's all part of the same industry. It's just so ridiculous. Yes, I'm very glad he got called out. That was probably the most delicious part of all of the entertaining hearings, except for Kash Patel telling Klobuchar, that annoying woman, you got 2 minutes. I mean, that was great. John Kearney, Dr. Steve, we all understand that Trump is on a mission to destroy DEI, but do you think he made a mistake by getting ahead of the National Transportation Investigation, the horrible crash in Washington, D.C., with his comments yesterday? Prayers to all the families involved. No, I don't. He obviously knows something, John. That's good. That's going to come up, and he's making it. Look, I mean, he's just saying. I think there's two things going on. Number one, I think he takes this very personally. Like I said, he takes the Afghanistan withdrawal debacle personally. He takes the Russian invasion of Ukraine personally. He takes October 7th personally. All these things he takes personally because he believes that had the Democrats not been allowed to get away with what they did in 2020, that this would never have happened. So there is a sense of that. But then on the other hand, you cannot focus on DEI and competence and merit at the same time. They are not the same. DEI and competence and merit are not the same. There's just no way around that. You know, the more you close, the more fine you make those lists. You saw the DEI list that the FAA had sent out to say, here's who we want to recruit to become air traffic controllers. And you could see the category, the population category, starts getting an incredibly minute amount of people belong to that category. So the problem is that when you're looking for the most competent people in a population pool, if you have a population pool of say 10 million versus a population pool of 100, the top 1% of that 10 million are going to be significantly more competent than the top 1% of the 10. Right? Because again, it's just because you have a massive pool. This is why bigger countries, and again, there are exceptions, but this is why bigger countries in international competitions tend to do the best. There's just more of a pool, like you see it in the Olympics. There's more of a pool to draw from for the talent. And so the talent at that top, say 10%, the talent gets more, the competition gets more and more and more intense because there's just so many people. And then that final top 1% are really the cream of the crop. They're astonishing. Whereas if you just have a tiny little population pool, you're going to have your top 1%, but they're not going to be anything compared to the top 1% of a population pool of, say, 10 million. So the more DEI begins to find subcategories that represent smaller and smaller and smaller pools, the competence level by definition goes down. And that's what Trump is saying. Trump, from what he knew, from what was going on, this was, he believes, in the end, inevitably a part of the competence crisis that's affecting the nation as a result of the 4 years of Democrat rule. So I just think you need to trust Trump on his instincts right now, his political instincts. And if you're like, well, this isn't a time for, no, sorry, no. I mean, you may feel that way, that's fine, but no, you're not dictating things right now. I mean, you can express your opinion, but no, he's under no moral obligation. Unite the kind. No, those days are over. We've got an incredible mess to clean up, and he doesn't want to waste a moment on it. Terry, what would happen if Mitch McConnell were to die, resign now, or in time for Governor Beshear to appoint an interim senator? Would he obey Mitch's law and wait for the RFK XCOM to name, RPK XCOM to name 3 candidates? Or we say, screw you, I'll name who I want. Or damn well, please. Yeah, I don't know what, again, I just scratched my head at Kentuckians, how they could have. I guess they ran a really bad Republican. He just ran a crappy campaign, but still, you have to wonder how a state that has a 80% Republican majority in its state legislature could do that. I don't know. I don't know what Bashir would do. I don't know Bashir his patterns enough to make a comment one way or the other. I doubt the Republicans in the House legislation would allow him to do it. Let's put it that way. And I doubt the state legislation would let him do it. And I doubt that the Republicans on the Hill would let him do it. He would have enormous political opposition of trying to put a Democrat in Mitch McConnell's seat. Marilyn Dragody, good to hear from you, my friend. Hey, Dr. Steve, is there any hope for us to win the AI arms race with, and also will RFK Jr. and Tulsi be confirmed, and will the AFD be banned? Okay, wow, you got me a lot there. Well, sure, of course we can win the AI arms race, of course. You know, with Elon Musk at the helm, yeah. So, you know, China is definitely is doing some good stuff, but with China, for example, there's two schools of thoughts with China, just in general. One is China is inevitable. They're like the Borg. Resistance is futile, right? China is going to take over the world, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's the Martin Jakes thesis and so forth. There's just no way you can do anything about it. They're 1.4 billion people. And yes, they're going through a population decrease, but that's not going to mean anything till about 2100. And sorry, they're taking over the world. There's nothing you can do about it. On the other side, you've got the Peter Zion crowd that says, "Oh, they're about to collapse. They're going to collapse at any moment. And they're going to break up into like 5 zones or whatever. Whatever this is." So you've got China's inevitable versus China is going to collapse. I have a synthesis of those two. So I'm in the middle of that. I'm a third way. And that is that China is incredibly formidable, and they are rising as a civilization state. I wouldn't even say they are right. They are a civilization state, and they are going to assert tremendous power in the 21st century on the world stage. And they have a lot of futility built in. The surveillance state, for example, is incredibly expensive to run. The surveillance state holds them back, ironically, in many respects. And just, I mean, Xi has been trying to get rid of the corruption, but it's very, very hard to do. And they have some significant issues that holds them back. So they're very strong, and they're hampered in many ways as well. And I think that's going to be the same with their AI. They're going to have some extraordinary success, but there's going to be a lot of failure along the way, just because built into their system. Whereas if this golden age really is happening and we unleash the archaeo-future genius of Trump right now, what his inaugural speech pointed to, which was, we are going to re-embrace what makes America America great, our traditions, our customs, our culture, and so forth. And we are going to go forward more innovative than ever before. So we're going to combine our archaeo with our future, tradition and technology. Then, yeah, all bets are off in terms of how astonishing we can harness AI. And I would say for the betterment of humanity, not for the we don't want, so humanity doesn't want to become servants. We want an AI that serves humanity, not humanity that serves AI. I think RFK, Tulsi will be confirmed because they have to be. It's part of the Republican new majority, and I think the politics are such with the realignment of MAGA and MAHA, putting Tulsi and RFK into positions of power are part and parcel of the success of this new coalition that put the Republicans, not just Trump, but the Republicans into power. So it's just part of politics. Now you're going to see a lot of, like Cassidy in Louisiana, who we've got a primary. We've got to get rid of that scum. But you're going to see a lot of, positioning of trying to, well, I don't know. And, Tulsi makes me nervous. RFK, I don't know. Is vaccine hesitancy? You're going to see all this posturing. But in the end, I think that's all just to get a deal, to get a little bridge in their name, in their district, or whatever, or in their state, I should say. That's really just to try to get the White House to pay attention to them. And generally, like we saw with Mike Johnson, they get what they want. They're a little bit of a squeaky wheel. They get some grease and we're good to go. So we should be okay. I think we're just at this point one vote down with Tulsi and RFK. And if that happens, we're good to go. I expect recess appointments. Trump is not taking a no to this, but we do want them. We do want them confirmed so that they can't hold that as political, the fact that they were voted down as political leverage over them. So it's very important that I think they get confirmed. And AFD will be banned. I don't think so. Not after this CDU alliance. Just brief alliance passing the anti-immigration bill in the lower chamber of the Bundestag. I don't think so. I don't think the AFD will get banned. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I don't put anything past globalist powers, but that was fascinating because no one had ever worked with the AFD before inside the German government, and now you're actually seeing. And we saw it. We've seen it in pockets. We've seen it in Bavaria. We've seen it in Eastern Europe, but at the national level, we haven't seen that. So I think they're okay. We'll see. Paul, in reference to the Senate confirmation hearings, my theory is this: Trump will wait to see who the Senate will confirm and who they won't. Then he'll recess the Senate, put in who he wants, and try them out for a year. Your thought? Yeah, no, I think he's getting his cabinet. The important part is if they get confirmed, then it's a unified party going in to governance these 4 years. If they don't get confirmed, then there are fractures. And again, do not put it past the Republicans to destroy. They are an establishment wing. And we're trying to wrench them from that establishment. And so there's going to have to be a lot of money. There's going to have to be a lot of carrots dangled in front of them. And then there's going to have to be a lot of threats, like Nicole Shanahan is already talking about, who is a billionaire, who's going to pump, and as is Elon Musk, who's going to pump a lot of money into defeating any Republican, Republican of note opposition to these nominees. What gives me, I don't know how much to read into it, but what gives me a lot of hope is that Elon's been rather quiet. So that tells me he must know something, because the last time he saber rattled, people fell into line. But now it's Nicole Shanahan, who I don't think has it in as much, obviously, as does Elon. But Nicole Shanahan is doing the same thing. It's almost like Elon's wingman in a sense of Cassidy, anybody who's voting against these nominees of RFK, Tulsi, or Cash are going to get primaried. For the exception of Susan Collins, even though Susan Collins actually looks like she's very very inclined to vote with them. But we've got to get rid of Murkowski. I don't care. Throw in a Democrat. I don't care. And we've just had it with this disgusting leech in our party. It's enough with her. But it's just very important that we have a unified party moving in. So far, so good. We'll have to see. Let's see. Our producer, Micah, breaking news. All federal employees have been ordered to eliminate pronouns from all mail signatures by 5 p.m. today. It's the golden age, gang. It's the golden age. Absolutely wonderful. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, RFK Jr. expose Liawatha and Kami Bernie as the spoke trolls of Big Pharma. They really are. When will these traitors be held accountable for treason and the death of millions of people around the world? Will we ever see justice? Oh, gosh, I don't know. Rock Dog, we'll have to see. Again, that's what I think they're so scared to death about Pam Bondi, and why they've been inordinately stonewalling her nomination. I mean, she's getting it. She's going to be nominated, or she's going to be confirmed, but they're slow walking it because they know the moment she's in, and with Cash as well, the moment they're in, the investigations are going to begin. So we'll see. We'll see, Rock Dog. We could always dream. Franz, good morning, Dr. Steve. Re-territorialization and regionalism seem to have a lot of overlap with regarding decentralization. Are they two sides of the same coin? Yeah, definitely, Franz, definitely, yeah. So decentralization I see is more systemic. You know, it's talking about it's talking about the process of transferring political power, and more federalizing society, so as to recognize the sovereign jurisdictions of a multi-layered political system. Whereas re-territorialization is really more, it's the whole cultural element as well. So I see decentralization as more sociological, for lack of a better term, and re-territorialization or sort of this neo-regionalism as more cultural. So it's more holistic. It's going to be more civilizational. So it's not just taking our politics back. That's usually how I'll explain it. But it's taking our culture back. It's taking our economics back. It's taking our whole national civilizational sovereignty back. So it's going beyond just the state and how the state functions. It's sentiments of reasserting our place in the world. That's great, Franz. I love you. Franz, you're very good, I'm noticing, at making these parallels and correlate. So as a prof, I'm gonna go prof on you here. As a prof, when we're evaluating students, it's one of the things we're looking for is this kind of this linear thinking of being able to make connections between independent concepts and see how they overlap and relate and how they are mutually explicative, how they explain one another. You do that very well, I've noticed. So that's a talent you have. That's very good. You have integrative thinking. Terry, Hulbert, are any of Trump's nominees, especially Tulsi, RFK, and Cash, in serious trouble? Will any of them fail confirmation? Again, we'll see. I don't think so. I think they'll all pass. The Democrats already got their victim. That was Matt Gaetz. I think he was, looking back, I think he was a sacrificial victim. I think he, for whatever reason, wanted to get out of politics. I don't know. But I think they should all be okay. If not, we'll know. We'll find out ahead of time. But so, again, I haven't heard Elon rumble yet. When I hear Elon come out and say any Republican senator that votes against, then there'll be, again, that's going to be the stick that goes along with the carrot. That means that something's not right. Deborah, Dr. Steve, do you think President Trump will force recess appointments if RFK and Tulsi don't have the money, or don't get the votes? I do. I think they're too important to the coalition, the MAGA Maha realignment, for them not to be in power. They are, Tulsi and RFK came out and stuck their necks out for Trump on the campaign trail. Had Trump lost, they would have been part of the persecuted. Remember, this election was our J13. It was our Butler. You know, if we turn the other way, we're out. We're done. They would have got. I already told you guys we were going to probably start doing a lot of videos on how to Quebecize red states. How red states could throw up administrative and legal barriers to protect our culture, and because it would be an all-out war to try to destroy us. And RFK and Tulsi took the very brave road and stood with Trump the whole way. Trump is going to stand with them the whole way. I think there's just no way around that. That's the way I'm seeing it. Terry, is the FAA entirely to blame for that plane crash? Was the Army at fault because its helicopter was at the wrong altitude, flight level, whatever it's called, and not even at a standard frequency? Yeah, we're going to find out, Terry. Absolutely. That's what our ROT Corp was getting at. Nothing is really making a lot of sense here. The overall scenario that I fleshed out last night in detail. You can check that video out. I think we actually had it. We recast part of it this morning. The overall scenario of what happened seems to be plausible. So the overall scenario is that 2 planes were involved. One military helicopter. The military helicopter was told to initiate a visual distance with a plane, not both planes. And so it focused on one plane and was not focusing on the other, and the two collided. Why they were in the same, like you're saying, how did you put it? Altitude, right? Or why they were at the same and the flight altitude is, again, that's going to have to be determined. And why is the Army flying helicopter training missions in the same vicinity as, as commuter flights? What the hell is all that? So yeah, there's just all kinds of, this was just, it turns out this was a disaster waiting to happen, and it happened. So we'll have to see. Yeah, we'll just have to see. We're finding out that more and more, though, that there's a lot of variables here that are not good. Franz, would it be fair to say that RFK Jr. and Tulsi alignment were responsible for Trump winning the popular votes? Of course, yeah, that was part of it. That's why I think both RFK and Tulsi are going to be part of the administration. The MAGA and Maha realignment is the most powerful political force in the nation. Quark Bender, Dr. Steve, good morning. Would you agree with the following? Narcissists, aka progressive Democrat, 21st century liberal, socialist, communist, Marxist, fascist, tyrant, etc. The Cartman drama triangle: the victim, the persecutor, the recuser. Victim: sadness, poor me, persecutor, anger, it's all your for the recuser, fear, let me help you. Thoughts? I don't know. Quark, you're gonna have to help me. You're gonna have to unravel that, man. That's like a puzzle for me. I can't quite figure that one out. Good morning. Do you agree with the following? Progressive Democrat, 21st century liberal, socialist, communist. Yeah, it's just it's too jumbled, bud. I need more verbs in there. Can't make it out. Sorry, bud. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, cash expose all the Democrat plantation for the traitors. They really are when it comes to their role in the J6 coup. When will we get justice? Now, Rock Dog, you got to stop asking me this question. Yeah, this is you tipped your hand there. You didn't even put a question mark. It's an exclamation point. You're just mad. Stop being mad. We're in the golden age, dude. That's what's Trump's best revenge? What's his best revenge? Rock Dog, tell me. What's his best revenge? Success, right? Adam, shit attacking cash, isn't that racism? That's what we were told the last 4 years. We're standing up to Pato Joe's DEI troll. No, I know. It's all they're clowns. They're clowns. And it entails its own demise. Rock Dog, to me. That's, if you don't get, can I say that? I think that's the justice in the end, is that they entail their own rot. They destroy themselves. And, there's a theology to that. The theology is the first victim of any act of evil is the perpetrator. The first victim of evil is the perpetrator. Every evil a serial killer commits begins with the evil in the serial killer's own heart. It is the serial killer's heart that's the first victim of the evil, Right. So they're bringing themselves down. You don't have to worry about that. Quark Bender, they're shifting on the fly to match each of these three roles as the situation would change. Oh, is that part of the, they're shifting on the fly to match each of these? Oh, that makes 1,000% sense. I don't know if you guys could bring back Quark's original, do you have his original one that he was appealing to? Yeah, I mean, yeah, yes, that makes sense. Yes. Yeah, the what is it? I like how you put it, but there I've heard it put another way. Yeah, it'll come to me when I'm not thinking of it. But yes, yeah, well, let's just be blunt. It's called two-face. It's just you put on a different face depending on the situation. But in the end, that face is always going to be used to advantage yourself when all is said and done. Yeah, I think that's good. Wreck Dog, Dr. C, are you aware of the near-mid collision over Phoenix a few months ago? The pilots and the active anti-collision sensors in the planes, the pilots caught it and took action. The air traffic controller actually put both planes in the same altitude for the same runway. Turns out she was hired over transfer ATC from Atlanta and two former Air Force controllers. Yeah, I mean, this is what I mean. I have not heard about that specifically, but there have been a number of very, very real concerns expressed over the last few years about flight safety, airline safety, and standards being lowered for ideological purposes. And the consequences are unimaginable. I mean, obviously. Stephen Connors, when will we see schedule? I think you're seeing it. It's a good question, Stephen. But I mean, you're talking about formally. I thought he already signed that, and I think you're starting to see it. So, in other words, whenever they're firing anybody, the part of the protections, the layers of protections that these 2 million federal employees have is they can always sue you, accusing you of political retribution. So that's why it's extremely hard to let anybody go. They're letting people go left and right. And I think that's because Trump reinstated Schedule F, if I recall, the very first day. Might have been the second day. But I think you double check. There's lists of his, they're growing long, but lists of all of his executive orders that he's signed. And if you do like a find, rather than scroll down, just do a find on top of your whatever you're using, your Google, whatever, and put in Schedule F, you should be able to find it. Or some kind of substitute thereof. But he's been firing people left and right, and as I understand, no one's been able to challenge it, especially all the DEI officers. They haven't been able to challenge it because, as I understand it, in effect, they are Schedule F employees now, which means that he, as a president, has discretion to fire them in any way, shape, or form he wants. Missy, I heard someone who has researched the JFK and McKay assassinations for decades. He does not believe the CIA will allow the documents to be released. He sees their control of it as a major problem for the future of our nation. Do you think Trump will actually be able to get all the documents on this? I don't know. I don't know how it works in the inside there, Missy. I know that's a big concern that a redaction has already taken place, or they're doing what they can to put in false files. We'll see. I mean, it will go through a very fine-tooth comb independently once the files are released. And that's the good news, is we'll have all these independent data analysts taking a look at it and drawing some conclusions. Mitchell, the Democrats use people with disabilities as props to push their agenda, and it's sickening. Yeah, it's so cool. You point that out, Mitchell. Did you know it's very interesting you point that out, because the term identity politics first emerged, I believe it was in the 60s, in court cases of people with disabilities pushing back against discriminatory practices or, or unaccommodating public spaces so they can't access them. And the reports on that said that this involved a new kind of identity politics. These were politics that were very specific to a particular identity. And the very first people group, as it were, or population that identity politics described in its original form were people with disabilities. And then it took on indigenous peoples causes. And then only, I think, in the late 70s, 80s, actually kind of petered out for a while, if I recall the history of the term. But then it started to take on the any kind of non-white issue or feminist issue, LGBT issue, but it started with people with disabilities. So it's kind of gone full circle in that sense. So I'm with you, man. I think it's sickening. I hate people who use human shields. I think it's so cowardly, and it's and again, it's a form of bullying, but they're so bad at it now. It's just laugh at them. Well, yeah, Dr. Steve, glad you're feeling better. Sorry. With the bounty of new voters following Trump, how do the rest of the GOP secure his fan base? Good question. For the upcoming elections. J.D. Vance resonates with the people because of his past and his success, but can the rest of the GOP have an epiphany so that the Trump MAGA base keeps growing, and by doing so, shed establishment swampers permanently from the party? Your thoughts? Great question. This is where we need to bring Rich Barris back, because Rich, maybe I'm overstating it, but this is Rich's blood issue, or his butter issue. I don't know. He knows he has done so much data analysis showing that if the Republican Party would just embrace MAGA fully and go full working class, or really, like you brought up J.D. Vance, full aristo populist, bring together the new tech right with Appalachia, as it were, we will be an unbeatable party. It's just there are so many financial interests that are pushing back against it, right? And big pharma being one of them. We'll have to see. I don't know the answer to that. We'll have to see. The infrastructure is in place. So Cliff Maloney, Scott Pressler, they are what we just saw happening in Nevada, what's happening in Arizona. The infrastructure is in place. We are building Republican registration at its grandest level we've ever seen. And that is the most accurate predictor of how a party is going to do in the next election, right? Whoever tends to have the registration advantage tends to win, because it's just, why register if you don't plan to vote? That kind of stuff. So my hope, here's my sense. My hope is, because politics is ultimately about power, and the power does ultimately belong with the people, in that if we don't vote them in, they got no power. Just ask Paul Ryan. My hope is that the more overwhelming the Republican registrations get, based on MAGA and MAHA efforts, the more inevitably the candidates are going to have to align with that dynamic. It's going to be hard because, again, you've got the Mitch McConnells and the just the entrenched forces in there. But it's going to happen. It's just it has to, or else. Yeah, I mean, it'll if it's not the Republic, then like what we're seeing in the UK, a third party will show up and do it, like Nigel Farage's reform. It's going to happen. Because the people, I mean, we are in a populist age, and the people are taking the power back. Just so we're talking about reterritorialization, decentralization and the like. So, Hot cake. How likely Trump's Congress passes federal law for these three? Voter ID requirement for all states, paper ballots, and ban ranked choice voting. And then we could finally get Lisa Murkowski out of there. Number one, I think, is like almost 100%. I think, because again, it's an issue that has about 80% support, 90% support. So I think voter ID requirement is going to get passed. Paper ballots, probably not. I'm just going to tell you, probably not. Trump might push for it, and it just doesn't have the power. And ban ranked choice voting, probably not. Just because I'm looking at it from the vantage point of supermajority support. Whatever has supermajority support will generally pass when it finally gets there. You just need an Avenger in office to bring it forward into the political process, so that the obstructionist powers that be are overwhelmed, as it were. So there you go. That's that. I think one will pass, but the other two probably not. Not that Alaska can't get rid of it. Vaughn, Dr. Steve, do you feel we're not cognizant of a massive undercurrent of cultural Marxists coming out of Gen Z? People like Carolyn Bashenko and other podcasters think we're not paying attention to the groundswell of this from college graduates. Yeah, it's very interesting you say that, because there is some concern about that. The scholar Eric Kaufman, has done some very good scholarship on the radical cultural Marxist sentiments that we see, particularly on Ivy League campuses, among, like, for example, just law school students. So if you survey law school faculty, should a faculty member be removed because of their views on Trump, say they're pro-Trump, 50% might say yes, 50% might say no. But if you ask the students, like 90% say yes. So there is this visceral cultural Marxism there. So yes, it's going to be an issue. Now, whether it's going to be as much of a problem as we think, I don't know about that, because political sentiment is not static. That's what you've got to get. That's very important when analyzing Gen Z. Political sentiment is not static. We have studies that show that political sentiment moves at least 1% to the right with every year of aging past the age of 18. That's if I recall, a Chatham study that's a 40-year long study. So, I mean, I was a radical leftist in many ways. Not radical, probably, but I was pretty leftist in college. A lot of us were. And it dissipates. It just, when you leave the college campus, it doesn't maintain its social plausibility anymore. So, all of that is to say that it is a problem, but I don't think it's the problem we think it is. Because you have to figure a very significant percentage of those who have rabid cultural Marxist views will see those views dissipate and change just within a few years after graduating. So, BW, how do you think we'll do in the midterms and with deportations? Don't know. Too soon to assess on midterms yet. We'll obviously be covering them very closely when we start getting some data. Deportations are going amazing. I think they're doing great. We're talking thousands have already been deported. These are the most violent, and as Tom Holman says, as we go on, the numbers, the daily numbers will by nature increase, because the pool of those that we're pulling from, the POOL of those we're PULL-ing from will increase as well. So Cherokee, XJ Cherokee Bear, any bets Joe Walsh will run for governor of Illinois? Don't know. Don't follow it. don't follow Joe Walsh at all. Isn't he that rabid? And are you talking about the rabid anti-Trumper? If so, I don't know. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, I would love to see this and the front row press conference. You, Tucker, Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, and maybe Steven Crowder. Yeah. I'm out of my league, man. I'm out of my league. I'm not worthy to be in that row. I'll be behind them. How's that? Robo Guy, I know what's about to happen in Romania election-wise, and it's insane. Though actually, why didn't the Uniparty do that with our election? Unless chances are we would have retaliated fiercely. I think it was too late here. I think I think the forces behind Trump were too powerful. We had a Musk behind him, and let's be blunt. Democrats are very weak right now. They became very weak again because they have their own brittleness inherent to them. Kalindarchescu came out of nowhere. I mean, he was mocked. He was ridiculed by the Romanian elite. If I recall, his campaign was barely even covered by Romanian media. Nobody, if I recall, nobody even showed up. Nobody of note of the Romanian media showed up to do the customary, filming of him casting a vote on election day. He came out of nowhere because he was a man of the people, particularly the Orthodox people of Romania. And so they got away with that. Yeah. Well, thus far, I don't think ultimately they will get away with that. But again, they just showed their hand of just how hypocritically despotic they are in their tactics of protecting democracy. Despots for democracy is probably should be our new term for these idiots in Romania and at the EU as a whole. RT Corp, Dr. Turley, have you heard anything about the Obamas and Kamala Harris possibly getting divorced? Kamala Harris is blaming Doug Emhoff for a loss and now wants to leave him for it. What do you think you could do to the Democratic Party and the great anointed Barack Obama leaves Michelle for Jennifer Aniston? Oh my gosh. I'll go in reverse order. It'll probably I don't know. It'll probably increase his cred, to be honest with you. I don't know. That's just a sense I get. I haven't heard anything to confirm or deny Kamala Harris getting rid of Emhoff. So we'll just have to see. I mean, I think it's just part of the narrative that the Democrats are having to clean up from the fallout of that disaster. And that wasn't again, you have to keep in mind $2 billion, the entire legacy media apparatus campaigning on her behalf 24/7, and she had the worst Democrat loss in a generation. Not good. Two generations. Not good. Richard Maynard, Dr. Steve, your thoughts on sending illegals to Gitmo? I'm all for it. I think it's kind of I did a video on it. I think it's our version. It's Trump's version of Nayib Bukele's mega prison. And this is even better in the sense it's technically like outside of the United States. They're even thinking of doing possibly opening up Alcatraz again, which would be very interesting. But I like it. I think, again, I think it's a twin show of force. It's a show of force to use deterrence for anyone who would want to try to come into cross our borders illegally. Deterrence for anyone who's here illegally who wants to stay. It's going to make them, again, I think self-deportation would be the master plan, this kind of passive deportation where people realize, whoa, if we get caught, we're in big trouble. And I think that's what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing massive deportation happening. So that it just gets kind of woven into the very dynamics, the regional dynamics of the country, but then also just a symbol of confidence and the restoration of faith and trust and our nation's institutions that they work again, that the government's there to keep us safe. That's what its purpose is. If it's not doing that, then what the heck? I mean, what the heck is, it's no longer fit for purpose. So yeah, so I dig it. I think it's really cool. 30,000 beds. I mean, Nayib Bukele, I think his mega prison is 40,000, but that'd be very cool. Bert, hello, Dr. Steve. What do you think of the Iron Dome for the United States? It would be huge. I do. Yeah, I think it's part of the weapon, the defenses of the future. So defenses of the future are not going to be fought so much on the battlefield. This is the argument. Okay, we'll see. But the defense of the future, or the wars of the future, not so much fought on the battlefield. They're not even half the time fought by soldiers per se. They're going to be fought from central intelligence units, operational units. They're throwing out drones and missiles and the like. It's going to be very AI oriented. It's going to be very remote oriented, and Iron Drones are going to be essential, I think, in that new warfare to keep the homeland secure from external forces coming in. So I'm very excited, and I want to do it. I'll be doing a video on it very soon. It's just as part of the new defenses, the new age of defense. Rita, Dr. Steve, please tell me what the ban on email pronouns applies to all federal subsidized entities, including schools and libraries. I'm sorry. I'm getting so tired. Sorry, Rita. And these glasses, I think they don't really work when I'm reading it. Please tell me that the ban on email pronouns applies to all federal subsidized entities, including schools and libraries. That would be great. I do not know whether that is true or not. So this was just breaking the news I got from Micah. I don't know, Micah, if you want to do a little quick research here for Rita, and I could see all federal employees ordered to eliminate pronouns from all mail signatures by 5 p.m. today. I do not know if that applies to federal subsidized entities, including schools and libraries, but I think they could. I mean, again, Trump is going full. What's the term I'm looking for? He's going full executive. He's using the power of the executive branch, which is considerable, to force cultural realignment around the sentiments of the people. The people have had it. The people do not want this anymore. They don't want this anymore. They could care less about onesies, but they really care about this kind of insane sort of trans ideology that they think is hurting kids, hurting women's sports. They're done. They're not done with the people. We love people, and we want people to be treated respectfully and kindly and alike, but we're done with the insanity around it. And so he's using the full force of executive power, which again is absolutely considerable, to realign federal, the whole of the federal government around the sentiments of the people. So I would not be surprised if he does that. Our producer Micah just confirmed all he sees is federal employees. That is the order. So, but lobby, if you haven't, lobby your congressman or go to Doge and say, can you do the same for federal subsidized entities like schools and libraries, which I would be 1000% cool with. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, is there a plan to primary all rhinos up for re-election 26-28? I really don't care if they support the MAGA agenda right now. They didn't in his first term, nor do they support MAGA the last 4 years. So yeah, so you're like Joni Ernst. Like, I don't care how she votes. I think she should still get primaried. She's beyond ridiculous. Cassidy has to go. He's done. So yes, I believe there is a plan already. Scott Pressler's already talking about taking out Cassidy. Again, it won't be hard. That's the beauty of this. It won't be hard. Just got to find a good, strong MAGA candidate. We're totally, as Pete Hegseth found out, we're totally forgiving of any candidate and their past or whatever. If you're MAGA, we love you and we're 1000% behind you. And there's no smut or dirt that they can throw your way. We're doing it with Tulsi. We've done it with RFK. There's no dirt that they can throw our way that we even remotely consider. We don't. The politics as usual is gone. And so yes, I think they are worried. So they're going to do their best to try to get Trump's endorsement. And they know if they vote against one of his nominees, that endorsement will never come. So we'll have to see what happens with Cassidy. Murkowski is just a loser. I mean, we'll have to see if we can get rid of her. And Collins in Maine, to be honest with you, I mean, that she's the best we can get. I don't expect much from her. She's a number we need just so that we're controlling the committees, but we don't depend on her for her vote. So Cody, hi, Dr. Steve, longtime listener, first time caller. Thanks, Cody. Great to have you. Thanks for the super chat. What do you think the odds are of Trump getting another Supreme Court pick? Do you see how frail and hunched Sotomayor looks at the inauguration? Yeah. No, a lot of people say there's a good possibility Sotomayor is out by the time he leaves. She may try to push it out. We'll see. But he may get another before. I don't know what the odds are though. I couldn't say. Brian Edgebrand, my friend, my brother from another mother. This is my colleague from Eastern University. We're at Eastern for a couple of decades together. Who besides Collins and Murkowski among Republican senators are not voting for Cash, RFK, and Tulsi? So that's where Cassidy comes in. Of Louisiana. I heard he was he's wishy-washy on RFK because he didn't want to, how did he put it? He didn't want to promote vaccine deniers or something like that. I forgot how he put it. So Cassidy is the only one I heard of. We should be good to go. You'll get on Twitter a lot like, oh, there's a handful of senators are not going to vote for them. That's exactly what we were hearing with Pete Hegseth. That's what we were hearing with others, or Pam Bondi, or what, it turns out it's not true. Right now, there's just all kinds of, this, Brian. I mean, I don't need to tell you this. I mean, there's all kinds. It's very much like the university politics. There's all kinds of backroom deals going on right now. They're just jockeying themselves, positioning themselves for the best bargain, because this is the one time senators have some political power over the president, as it were. It's the one time, and these guys are going to milk it. Some milk it with being like Ted Cruz right now, being absolutely loyal, 100% loyal to the president. Others milk it by saying, well, I don't know. Tulsi she seems too pro-Putin. Really? You're going to write that check for my bridge at my state? Great, no problem. Tulsi, she's the best. She's the most pro-American person I've ever known. So I think that's what's going on right now. They're just jockeying. But it's, Collins, Murkowski, and Cassidy in Louisiana. That's the only other one that I know of. Deborah, how do I connect with MAGA to primary Cassidy? Oh, well, Deborah, you just have to get in touch with your Louisiana Republican Party. That's it. I think that's to throw your hat in the ring. It'd be great. The more, the merrier. It's the power of the people. It'd be awesome. And that is it, gang. Have a wonderful weekend. I love each and every one of you. God bless. Keep our dear President Trump and Vice President Vance in your prayers, and our nation in your prayers. And I'll see you guys on Monday. God bless.